How to Build School Culture and Student Relationships, episode 611. Today's show is sponsored by Adobe. Stay tuned at the end of the show to learn how I use Adobe Premiere Rush to teach film in my classroom.
The 10-Minute Teacher Podcast with Vicki Davis. Every weekday, you'll learn powerful, practical ways to be a more remarkable teacher today.
So today we're talking with Danny Steele, an assistant professor of instructional leadership, about building school culture and building those important relationships. Danny, where do you encourage educators to start with building that positive school culture?
Well, I think to begin with, you've got to understand what our purpose is. And much as we've always tried to raise student achievement and we want to bring up those test scores, there's no teacher that got into business to raise test scores. First and foremost, we became educators because we want to make a difference with kids and create brighter futures for them. So it's about helping all the adults in the building stay grounded in our core purpose, and that's connecting with kids and making a difference for them.
Okay, so where do we start?
Well, one thing we did at our school several years ago that turned out to be a really cool thing is we created a wall of dreams. It was just a whiteboard on our one of our main hallways, and we asked all of our students, this was a school of sixth graders, we had 500 sixth graders, we asked all of them to write their dreams on the whiteboard. They each had like a different color Sharpie. So we had this wall of 500 dreams, and some of them were very stereotypical, like I want to be a professional athlete, or I want to be a rapper or a YouTuber. But we had other kids who would write things like, I want to be a loving mother, or I wish my dad would get out of jail, or I wish my mom would feel better. You know, some would write things about being a lawyer or being a doctor, or some people were just, their dream was to make the middle school cheerleading squad. So anyway, when you read these dreams, and when teachers would read these dreams, it would just sort of remind us of our purpose, and our ultimate goal is to inspire and empower kids to chase those dreams.
Well, you know, and sometimes dreams are something that you can help them do. For example, I was taking some students up to something in Atlanta, this Shark Tank, where we were pitching apps. And a young man said to me, it is my dream to eat at the Varsity in Atlanta. And I'm like, we can do that. Let's leave,
goodness.
30 minutes early. Well, he ended up at Georgia Tech, which is right there by the Varsity. You should have seen his
That's
face,
awesome.
Drinking that frosted orange and eating those onion rings and that naked dog walking, what do you call it? It was a hot dog. It was like, and how easy was that?
Yeah, that's awesome. It does not take much. Kids come to school. They have so many things that they're dealing with at home sometimes. They've got drama at their house, and it's hard. They just can't check all that emotional baggage at the door when they come. And so it's awesome when teachers are able to understand where they're coming from and recognize there's a lot more to those kids than maybe just what they see sitting in the desk. It doesn't take much sometimes to make their day. Sometimes just giving them a smile or a high five, asking them about how their weekend went or how their game went. Those little things, those little moments, whether it's eating a hot dog at the Varsity or, talking about the birthday party they got coming up. It doesn't take much sometimes to brighten a kid's day.
Okay, so what other tips do you have for us on school culture and student relationships?
I think as teachers, we can't control the students that are in our class. We can't control the initiatives that roll out from the district or from the state. Certainly can't control the parents, but every single day we can control the energy that we bring into the classroom. We can control our passion, our excitement for what they're teaching. I had an 8th grade teacher who taught me earth science, and he was so excited about rocks, and his enthusiasm got me excited about what we were doing. And the passion of the teacher, the energy of the teacher is usually the biggest thing that impacts student engagement. And when teachers come to work, when they're excited about what they're teaching, when they do their best to remain positive in spite of adversity that might be there, when they're mindful of the difference that they can make for kids in creating a brighter future and inspiring them, I think those things all work to help build a culture that is not just fun for adults to work in, not just a good place for students to learn, but it actually results, I think, in higher student achievement and higher student engagement.
So what do you say to the teacher who says, I want energy, I'm just exhausted?
Well, teaching is hard. It's not just demanding physically, but, there's an emotional burden, and there's a lot of emotional labor that goes into the job when you do it well, because teachers work so hard because they love their kids with all their heart. It does take a lot out of you. This is where it's important to As a principal, as the administrator, you've got to support those teachers. You've got to do everything you can to have their back and keep reminding them of their purpose. And as a teacher, it's important to surround yourself with other colleagues. Rely on your colleagues, collaborate as much as you can, and just trying to stay mindful of the difference you're making for kids. And that sort of can help you keep your head up sometimes. Now, you certainly still have to take care of yourself. You got to sometimes be able to leave work at work. You've got to take care of your family. That always comes first. But certainly being mindful of the difference you're making for kids can carry you a long way, I think.
So what are some tips as a veteran educator on building those solid relationships with kids?
Well, first of all, you have to just love kids. And it seems like that's something we should be able to take for granted. But I've got 3 kids of my own that have gone through school, and they could come home and they can tell me which teachers they feel like really love the kids, really enjoy being at work. Hopefully you've really got a heart for what you're doing. That's one thing. Then take time to get to know them and understand where they're coming from, understand what makes them tick, understand what their concerns are, what their frustrations are, and then being patient with that. Take time to figure out what their hobbies are and be at the door when they're coming into class and connect with them, give them a high five. Just sometimes a 10-second conversation when they walk into class can do more than that 45-minute lesson. It certainly sets the tone, sets the right classroom environment that's going to be more conducive to learning. So it doesn't take much to build relationships, but it does take a commitment to care about the kids and to try to understand them and know where they're coming from.
Okay, so we have some great ideas now to try to reach those kids. Danny Steele is co-author of Essential Truths for Teachers and Essential Truths for Principals. And certainly building school culture and building these relationships are essential to our success as educators. Thanks, Danny. I use Adobe Premiere Rush to teach digital filmmaking in my classroom. I love it because videos and editing projects move seamlessly between all of my students' devices. Check out this blog post and other Adobe resources, including some from my friend Todd Nesloni on the Education Trailblazers Pinterest board that you can view at coolcatteacher.com/Adobe Pins.